cameras in here. I was trying to see what steps I need to go about to try to get the footage.
Well, we don't show everything live during the work session, only during the board meetings. You need to submit a FOIA request through the city clerk's office.
For us when I was assaulted here at the
Yeah,
board meeting?
yeah, I guess so, during the time that you was hit on the top of the head with a piece of paper after
Right.
not standing for the pledge.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, you can submit that request through the city clerk's office.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Casey, you mind praying for us this evening? Once we get started. And Sammy, can you do the pledge for us tonight, sir?
Sure.
Let's call this meeting to order.
Alderman McHenry.
Here.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Alderman Dennis.
Here.
Alderman Stevenson.
Here.
Alderman Boyd.
Here.
Alderman Knight.
Here.
Alderman Hill.
Present.
Alderman Floyd will lead us in prayer at this time.
Let us bow. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord. We thank you for this sunshine you've given us today, Lord. We thank you for the rain that you've given us. Father, just ask that you forgive each and every one of us of all our sins, Lord, all our trespasses against you. Father, I just pray for this board as we get ready to conduct the city's business. Father, I just pray that we'd seek your will in everything that we do. Father, I pray for our city workers. I just pray that you go ahead your protection around them, keep them safe, and Lord, just thank you for the many blessings that you pour out on the city and each one of us individually. Father, I just pray for our nation as we're gearing up for a presidential election. Lord, I just pray that we again seek your will in everything that we do. It's in Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Alderman Williams, at this time, will lead us in the pledge.
Now stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the
Approval of consent agenda items. All items under this heading will be considered to be approved with one motion and one vote. If further discussion is desired on any item, it will automatically be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered as a general business item.
Can we remove 32?
Make a motion, we approve consent agenda.
Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Public hearings, number one, consider request of Kenneth and Glenda Clark for a dimensional variance permit to allow them to have a 4-foot side setback instead of the required 8-foot side setback for an attached carport at 3322 Harrell Street.
Brad, could I get you to address the board?
Yeah, I went out and visited with the Clapper's house, as you can see right here. The way their property runs, you can see obviously they've got a single car for it. Need another, so, yeah, like I say, he can meet the setback in, the further the carport goes back, just right here on the front, so he's asking for a 4-foot setback. I believe he had spoken with his neighbor, and they were in agreement with it. They didn't have an issue with it.
So that is okay with it?
Yeah,
Brad, have you been in conversation with the Claxons? They've talked to their neighbors,
Right.
and they're building the same material that's used on the house?
Conforming residential material.
Okay. All right, and what's your recommendation to the board?
I would recommend for approval.
Okay. All right, is anyone here to speak in opposition to that recommendation to the board to allow them to move forward?
I can say I've been by the Clax house numerous times, and they keep their yard up very, very well. Actually take care of most of the people around the yards and whatever, so they're very good for their neighborhood, and I would definitely recommend it.
Well, if there's nobody that's in opposition of it, is there a motion at this time to approve?
So motion.
There's two motions on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on.
General business number one, the traffic study from Pickering.
We're gonna have senior engineer Rick Ferguson address the podium along with Matt Workington, also a traffic engineer. Just for everybody in the audience, Rick is the engineer that designed the Pearl Richland Intermodal, the bridge. And it is the largest prefab engineering bridge in the state of Mississippi
Vehicular
currently,
bridge in the
right?
state, correct. Good evening. Mayor Wyndham asked that we come and give you an update on the traffic study. I'm going to give you a background on the intersection and how we got to where we are, and I'll let Matt take over and kind of go over some of the particulars of the study. First, you know, that intersection came about, I mean, the construction of the East Metro Parkway. That original plan was to be a two-way stop. The original traffic study that was done as part of an environmental document, which we did not do, was using data from the MPO website. It was using the MPO traffic model. And their build year traffic model of 2025, basically they overshot the traffic on the parkway by a factor of 3. They were predicting that original traffic model. Of course, it was assuming that there was going to be a lot of development that has not taken place. It had West Rankin Parkway in there. It had Airport Parkway in there. So there was a lot of planned roads in Rankin County that they anticipated to be open that never materialized for whatever reason, or hasn't opened yet. But the original traffic model had 30,000 cars a day on the parkway. We measured just around 9, and that was, 2024 versus 2025 build year. So a big reason why that the original study did not warrant a traffic signal was, number one, the volume was way overshot on the parkway. They did pretty good with modeling or coming up with the traffic that was on El Dorado. I mean, they got real close with that, but the traffic that they were predicting on the parkway was just way out of whack, and that really killed any hope of it being a traffic signal. Fast forward 20 years, parkway opens just before Christmas. We opened it on the busiest weekend in Rankin County, I think. I think we could have done a better job on social media telling the public that it was going to open, let everybody know that the situation at the intersection was going to change. I mean, up until then, it was a two-way stop with barricades. The intent was to get everybody kind of in a habit of stopping on El Dorado, and I think what we achieved was people doing rolling stops on El Dorado. So when the parkway opened, I think there was a wreck. We had the ribbon cutting at 10:15, and 11:25 there was a wreck. And since then, there's the Pearl PD went out there and they've got temporary four-way stop sign out there now. So everything kind of materialized real quick during the holidays. We had Southern Traffic come out there the second week of January. They did a traffic count, a 12-hour traffic count, and came up with some traffic numbers. And Matt did his traffic magic, as I call it, and come up with a solution. And I'll let him take over and kind of explain what he
All right, so it did meet one of the warrants. There's actually 8 different warrants that it could possibly meet. It met the 8-hour signal warrant, but it did not meet the peak hour warrants, which in my 20 years of doing traffic studies, this is the first time I've ever seen that. So it just means that the traffic is spread out throughout the whole day, nice and evenly, as opposed to most places which, you know, before and after work are busy. We analyzed it as a 2-way stop, an all-way stop, and then the signal. And from the level of service, there's really no big difference between any of those options. From a traffic standpoint, the 2-way stop would be the most efficient way to handle the intersection. But, you know,
We have a simulation up for y'all on
all right, so the simulation that's on the screen is the 2-way stop control at intersection. As you can see, the traffic on the East Metro Corridor is free-flowing, no delays there, and there's very minimal delays there on El Dorado. You see it going north-south there. You know, people will have to wait a few seconds there, but nothing out of the ordinary. And we can show the one that's signalized. This one is the way it's signalized, and as you can see, there's some queuing happening on the East Metro Corridor because they're stopped by the signal and people are going on El Dorado. Once again, it's not, you know, huge delays or anything like that. We did look at today, we got the crash data and looked at the warrant. There is a crash warrant in the MUTCD. It does meet the minimum volumes for that, but one of the stipulations in the MUTCD to meet that warrant is to install alternative measures in order to try to eliminate the accidents, and so that's something that we have not had time to do, and so that would be, you know, improving that 4-way stop or having more signage out there to make people aware of what the control is at that intersection.
Well, I guess in summary, the $64,000 question was answered, and yes, it does meet a signal warrant. What our study basically found was putting up the signal and spending money of the signal from a traffic standpoint doesn't give you any benefit whatsoever. There are other things that you can do to try to improve the functioning of that intersection. I guess the best way to explain it is we have an engine that's misfiring a cylinder. We don't know exactly what's wrong, but there's some low-cost alternatives that we can do to try to figure out what's going wrong or what's causing these accidents or why the intersection is performing the way it is. Putting up a traffic signal would be the equivalent of just going ahead and replacing the engine, which there in itself is nothing wrong with that. If you meet, you have that meets the warrant, so you meet all your ordinances, so there's no issues there. I will say this, add this, that if we bid the job today, if we had signal plans ready and we bid the job today, you're looking at probably a year before you have a functioning signal out there. The time delay or the delay in ordering materials and getting materials in on traffic signals is absolutely unprecedented. For example, we bid the project, the signal on 80 and 49, and the one at Pearson Road and Phillips, we bid it last summer. We gave the contractor 3 months to request a notice to proceed, which he was allowed to do in the contract. He waited to the very last day, and he requested a notice to proceed first week of November, with hoping that all of his equipment would be in first part of the year. There was poles and everything, and arms were supposed to be in the 1st of January, and now they're saying it's the 1st of March. We bid another signal project in another municipality last week, and Lewis Electric told us that their lead time on the cabinets is 11 months. So if you want to go with the signal, there are, the new mast arm signal will be a lengthy delay, but there are ways we can put a temporary signal if that is if that's your desire. I've been in contact with Lewis Electric about, they're looking at the intersection. They've laid it out, trying to come up with an estimate on what a temporary signal would cost. And that would get us from, and then the temporary signal would be just wood poles, span wires, and signal heads, nothing fancy, but it would bridge that gap between getting a signal up immediately versus waiting a year to get it up. We could go ahead and get that signal, that temporary signal up in a reasonably short period of time while we're developing plans for a permanent signal. So.
We find ourselves here tonight because we have to go back to our city ordinance, right, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you put up a traffic device within the city, you have to revert back to your city ordinance and get a traffic study. So we couldn't do this while the road was under construction, so I just want to be transparent with our people out there that are watching, and the people that are here in the crowd. We didn't know any of this information, this data that was shown tonight by a Pickering firm on traffic in order for us to act accordingly. So just to reiterate what he said, a two-way would be the best way of service. Obviously, it's not the safest. Four-way could be a better way than a light, but it does warrant a signal through traffic and through crash data.
Whatever you do, you've met your ordinances.
Right. So right now, we would be in accordance with our city ordinance, which would not expose us if we move forward on it. And the mass wire that he's talking about is taking old infrastructure off of 49 and 80 and placing in that spot. And right now, we're getting estimates on it, something for us to bring back to the board. We have a meeting with Lewis Electric tomorrow. And so we're going to give everybody some options, but again, the most unfortunate thing about it is these mast arms and these panel cabinets taking so long. And like what you said, unprecedented times. MDOT's having the same issues on big projects that they're bidding as well.
I got a question.
Somebody's gonna get killed up there, so.
Rick,
Yes, sir.
I know you did the study and all that stuff, but I drive that road every day, 2-3 times a day. My issue with it, and I want your opinion on what's gonna make it the safest. The traffic counts is not what matters to me. The issue is when you're coming across El Dorado Road from that stop sign and the traffic going across, you're crossing 4 lanes of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And I got teenage kids. There are a lot of people that have lived out on El Dorado that are older, and crossing those 4 lanes of traffic, I think is what's causing most of the wrecks. And every time I go through there, I see a piece of a vehicle where somebody else is at a wreck.
We've had most of our crashes with a four-way up instead of a two-way.
Yeah.
But I think, and something the board's got to consider, and I think that everybody in the city of Pearl, and kind of on what Johnny Mac's talking about, they're the taxpayers, and people recognize something that's unsafe. And, I think probably, out of the court of public opinion, what our citizens think, we should replace the engine. So, that's what, we should put the signal up.
Or a 4-way stop safer, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, that would be my question. So, what have we looked at the 4-way stop? What would be the feasibility of the 4-way stop?
It'd be as simple as putting up some signs.
So
With some big lights on
Wait
it.
a minute, wait a minute. Did y'all pay attention to that model? Can you flip back over to the 4-way stop? Even your little cars, animated cars don't even do they do rolling stops. Flip it back over to.
Well,
Well, we break,
Just so you could see what was going on, it is double time.
Well, you modeled it correctly.
So, but it is not even guaranteed that if you put up a signal, that's necessarily going to eliminate the accidents.
So it'll get your attention rather than stop.
But I think that there are, like, if you do a full, like, I didn't do a model of the four-way stop. I could generate that if necessary, but if you do a four-way stop or a two-way stop, there's, multiple things you can do to make it more safe as far as making the drivers aware of what's coming.
so currently out there, we have the temporary stop signs that have the red flashing lights on it, and the permanent stop signs that are north and south on El Dorado that have the red flashing lights on it. So we try to put this out there just as something as a beacon for people to be able to see better, slow down from a distance, and I think that's helped out some as far as the crash data is concerned.
Rick, how hard would it be to put some more lights out there? I don't know if that's your department or what, but that would be very helpful too, because it is pitch dark.
Talking about like streetlights.
Like streetlights?
Yes.
One of the things we did request from Lewis on their temporary signal quote was to put some luminaires out there. I agree, that is a very dark stretch of road. And on the simulation, those people were speeding. That's double time, as Matt said, so.
Well, most of them are anyway.
Yes, anybody that's driven that road, I mean, you could pay for the signal, but
Well,
Writing tickets.
Let me ask you something, or state something. My concern with the four-way stop, making it a four-way stop, is how long were those stop signs out there before the parkway opened?
6 months.
6 months?
Yeah.
And people ignored it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I
So,
said,
what does adding two more gonna do for you?
I mean, that's a very good point. And like I said, our intent was to put them up while they were working on the parkway to kind of get people trained and get in their mind to stop. And all they did was
Yeah.
they just started doing rolling stops, and pulling up there without the barricades there just never resonated with what was
I
going
just
on.
don't think the four-way stop is an option, because
But in the meantime, it's the best thing we have until we can get a signal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that everybody agrees, it's the best thing we can do in the meantime. And the reason, just from a public safety concern, we left that ribbon cutting, and I told Butch Lee and Gary Rhodes, I said, y'all had all the fun that day. I said, because everybody was crashing in Pearl, on that road. But anyway, I
Same
think.
thing, yeah, I left that ribbon cutting and I'm heading, north on the parkway, and if I don't stop, someone plows into it.
Yeah,
So,
so
yes.
we put that other two out there just to try to slow people down, for muscle memory to set in. And even though it wasn't designed that way, I think that we can err on the side of caution from a public safety standpoint. I mean, just exactly with the data that Rick and Matt presented to us tonight. And then it will be a later decision. We'll get the information back from Lewis, and then I'll bring that information back to the board, and you gentlemen can make a informed decision.
Yeah, and if the board desires, we can go in there and, come up with some pricing for additional signs, some, if you want to do, and if there is a four-way stop sign option that you want to consider, changing out and putting the stop signs with the lights around them, the reflective poles, just do the Cadillac of four-way stop signs, just
Yeah, well, I would,
lighting. That's going to help a lot of stuff there.
well, Rick, if you could package that together at
Sure.
one, and then by the next board meeting, after meeting with Lewis,
Yeah.
you can provide us all of that information with those different options.
I'll provide y'all that so y'all.
But
can
I
make an informed
think,
decision.
again, from this board, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think I am speaking for everybody, everybody's preferring a signal right now, unless you can really show out on something, Rick.
Gotcha.
Everybody in that area, I just want to see.
Yeah. All right, thank you, gentlemen. There's no
All right.
action to be taken on this this time. We just, thank you, guys.
General business number 2, consider an order to approve the independent contractor professional services agreement between the city of Pearl, Mississippi and Lee Hawkins, and to authorize Mayor Wyndham to sign the same.
Was there a motion to consider? All right, if there's no motion to consider at this time, I guess it fails. All right, moving on to the next item.
General business number 3, consider executive session to discuss personnel matters in the police department.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Trying to get them jokers tightened up in there.
Yeah, Gwen Hales died.
Yeah, I know.
Who did? Gwen Hale?
Yeah, we need to adjourn.
That's
I
right.
agree with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I'm glad you said that, Sam.
Gwen Hale, my goodness.
She had cancer.
Boy, I definitely heard one
She just had it.
Jordan.
At this time, we're in a segment of the board meeting where we adjourn. A lot of times, we adjourn in a citizen's name that recently passed away. We had a dear citizen by the name of Gwen Hales, just recently passed away of cancer. Gwen contributed to this community for several years, having a retail store, also with Parks and Rec, and certainly had a love for athletics and softball. And I think everybody on this board knew her and considered her a friend. So at this time, if somebody would consider making a motion.
Second.
There's two motions on the floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. No, Frank, I'm trying to get Frank up here. Yeah, I got two, too.